An index of German analyst and investor morale fell below zero for the first time in nearly 2 years in October, suggesting Europe's largest economy is reeling from crisis abroad and a weak Eurozone. Weak German data has also hit the same mood. Mannheim-based think tank ASU's monthly survey of economic sentiment tumbled for a tentative, rather 10th consecutive month to minus 3.6, and that was the weakest reading since November 2012 and was much lower than the consensus forecast in a Reuters poll for a positive reading of 1.0. Today we ask, what is happening to the German economy? What is causing this slump, and is there a possible turnaround for Chancellor Angela Merkel? Dr. Malte Brossig is Senior Lecturer at Wits University on European Matters and, of course, International Relations, and he joins us in the studio. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me again.
Right. The German economy, things are not looking good.
Yep.
Why is this scenario?
I think we've seen in the trailer before that we have a number of crises actually happening at the same time. That also has some impact on the German economy, and then as well the euro crisis as such was not really over. I mean, we still have neighboring economies, especially France, also Italy. I mean, these are big economies struggling as well, and the German economy is then very much interconnected. At the same time, growth in China is also unassuming, I would say. So it's not as dynamic as it was a couple of years ago, and then the US is recovering, but also rather slowly, plus all these different international crises, and of course the Ukrainian crisis with the sanction regimes. You know, this also creates some extra pressure on the economy on average. So there's a number of reasons for this slowdown.
Many people didn't expect this to happen because when Germany went to the elections, they said they were going to give Angela Merkel the second term because she managed to steer the German economy through the 2009 financial meltdown, and Germany avoided a recession. And right now, will she be able to turn the corner? And secondly, will Germany be able to avoid a spillover effect onto the whole Eurozone as it is also facing an imminent recession?
Two questions. The first one is easy to answer. The second one is more complicated. I think there is not much opposition for Angela Merkel domestically. It's a grand coalition at the moment. That means 80% of the members of parliament are actually voting for the government, so there's not that much pressure. If we compare the two situations in 2009 and now, really it's a different situation. 2009 there was a big slump really, and now we're still predicting growth for next year about 1%, but you're right. I mean, the predictions we had to be adjusted several times, and actually adjusted downwards. I think for Merkel, she always is a very pragmatic person and is a very pragmatic politician. So she's not so much driven by ideologies, for example. And if the economy would go into recession, I think we would also see a turn in government spending, for example, and in public spending. The second question with the spillover effect is more complicated to answer. Certainly what we can see is, because of the interconnectedness of European economies, you cannot expect that you're doing well while all the others are in a recession, for example. And that is also true for a fairly large economy like Germany.
Because it was confusing earlier when I was trying to ponder on the issue of the spillover effect with countries like Greece and Iceland. They come from a very, very serious financial quagmire. They were in the doldrums. But through austerity measures, they managed to a little bit come out of the woods. So right now, are they at the crossroads?
I think the problem really is that we see stagnation. The worst might be over, but there's now, I mean, the outlook is not really positive. So the question really is, where should growth actually come from? And if we look at the indicators, we see like there's mass unemployment. Unemployment rates even it's still in Greece for young people are 50%, if not more. And again, you know, if your neighbor is not doing well, how can you do well in the end? And that is true for Greece and for other European countries still. Yeah. So where is the dynamic coming from? And we haven't really answered it. So, I mean, the European Central Bank was cutting rates again. I think that was a signal, a warning signal, because politics is not really doing the job in the end. And now we're almost down to 0%. So there is not much leeway anymore.
Yeah, well, I'm hard pressed for time, but I have to ask you another important question because we ran a story about the China finance minister visiting Germany, and they were saying that they've called for a grand growth strategy with Germany, but Germany wants trade relations between it and China to be, consolidated so that they should have a great step forward in forging economic relations. Will this work? Because China is the world's second largest economy, and Germany is doing well in the Eurozone, but right now, considering the Zeus monthly survey, which is probably down at the moment right now, will they have a great step forward?
I think for Germany, part of the success for the last years was actually linked to the fact that Germany is a very strong exporter, not only exporter to the European direct neighborhood, but also internationally. And then China was playing a very important role. On the Chinese side, I mean, they're interested in getting high technology and developing their own country. So far, that relationship worked out quite nicely. Also, I mean, there are some issues you mentioned in terms of, German side wants to have more free trade, for example, because there are some, non-tariff obstacles here and there, and then the question of rule of law, secure investments, and these kind of things. But of course, you have politicians to solve these problems, and therefore you have these close governmental meetings from time to time.
All right. Thank you very much for joining us.
Welcome.
Dr. Malte Brosser is Senior Lecturer at Wits University on International Relations, talking to us right here on PM News. And when we move on to other